From the vantage of a visitor, the serenity and grandeur of a national park may feel far removed from the everyday. If visitors interact with NPS staff, it's most likely park rangers at campsites or at visitor centers. But national parks exist within a complex ecosystem of federal, state, local, tribal, and even international government. NPS sites include myriad types of resources, values, and assets, such as forts, monuments, battlefields, seashores, forests, petroglyphs, scenic byways, and event centers. Some of these national parks are larger than some states, while other national parks may be no bigger than a double-wide trailer. Because of this, not all parks may have the same level of financial resource or staffing to provide effective long-term stewardship when it comes to climate resilience, seismic retrofits, or inventory work. To provide even application of management and support across park units, NPS is organized through various geographic territories. For example, as shown here, regional offices, which provide administrative oversight and guidance. As part of the Department of the Interior, the NPS Director is situated in Washington, D.C., just off the Capitol Mall, which is also an NPS managed site. The Organic Act serves as a foundational guiding document for NPS mission and objectives. Beyond that, NPS is shaped by the will of the people. This means that policies and directives from Washington, D.C. that will steer higher-level management decisions at regional and park sites are derived from Congress and executive orders. But many of the actions within parks are governed by the park itself. This includes day-to-day management of park resources and assets. To coordinate holistic management that best accounts for the NPS mission, the public, and future planning needs, parks frequently collaborate with stakeholders such as tribal nations, regional municipalities, and the public. Increasingly, intergovernmental agreements are guiding stewardship, particularly when it comes to cooperation with tribal nations. NPS's mission includes the protection of Native peoples, customs, and their culture. But that directive has not always been honored, nor has its interpretation always incorporated Indigenous voices. The Sierra Miwok, who formerly inhabited the Yosemite Valley, are one example of a people dispossessed in the formation of a national park. Even today, the exclusion of non-federally recognized tribes from engaging in certain cultural activities on park lands persists. To more fully shoulder a responsibility and a national debt to American Indians and Native peoples of Alaska, Hawaii, and the U.S. territories, over the last 2 decades, congressional acts and the Department of the Interior have committed the agency to overcoming systemic barriers of access and to more fully incorporate the stories, voices, and needs of tribes into the work that we do. This includes improving access to cultural sites, the return of culturally significant artifacts and objects, and greater inclusion in decision-making processes. But there's still a lot of work to do. In 2018, the Sitka tribe, depicted here, assumed co-management of the Sitka National Historical Park interpretation in Alaska. In 2021, Point Reyes National Seashore and the Federated Indians of Great Rancheria entered into the nation's first co-equal partnership in managing the seashore's cultural and natural resources. In addition to working directly with tribal authorities and public stakeholder engagement, parks may also work with subject matter experts such as scientists, archaeologists, or engineers. In some cases, these partnerships are through academic institutions, but regional and national offices, such as the Washington, D.C. Support Office, also assist parks in these ventures and coordinate information and skill sharing between parks and government agencies. The Natural Resource Stewardship and Science Directorate is a park-wide administrative division and one example of this support network. NRSS provides scientific, technical, and administrative support to national parks for the management of natural resources. Staff work to develop, utilize, and distribute the tools of natural and social science to help the National Park Service fulfill its core missions, the protection of park resources and values. Branches of NRSS monitor for invasive species, pathogens, threatened and endangered species, and even light and noise pollution. One branch of NRSS centers on climate change. CCRP, the Climate Change Response Program, supports parks with technical expertise, research and training, project and planning support, and science communication. Parks are constantly collecting data. While visitation rates, weather, or cases of avian influenza may serve other purposes for park managers, all park data has application for improving our understanding of the intersecting effects and responses to climate change. CCRP helps to contextualize data and park goals with climate change in mind. Smaller parks, especially those that center cultural resources, may not always have staff who will be able to interpret climate change assessments or climate-ready management plans. Here again, CCRP provides direct support to parks, park regions, and even other NRSS divisions. Let's take a look now at the explicit goals associated with CCRP to better understand how CCRP fits within the management framework at various levels of the national parks. Among those missions and goals are literacy. CCRP works to ensure that parks have up-to-date science concerning the patterns and challenges associated with climate change, and equipping parks not only with information, but with background knowledge to be able to interpret and act on this information and incorporate this information into park planning. Action. Adaptation is critical to how we meet the challenges associated with climate change. CCRP works with parks to ensure climate change response is integrated into management and best practices. Our goal is that adaptation should be routine rather than an afterthought in all park planning. Education. Parks also play a really important role in outreach and education of the public. So it's important to the National Park Service that our staff, particularly interpretive and educational rangers, as well as docent volunteers who will interface with the public, are well informed and able to communicate to the public climate change science, as well as the repercussions and adaptation strategies affecting their parks. And that information needs to be accurate and timely. Sustainability. Of course, in managing for climate change, we also want to make sure we're not making the problem any bigger. CCRP helps parks as they strategize and implement ways to reduce carbon emissions and other contributing factors to climate change, ecological, and other resource degradation. Collaboration. Global warming is, of course, a global concern. Therefore, collaboration beyond the boundaries of the park is essential to fulfilling many of NPS's climate goals. Not only do parks and programs across NPS work together, but this also includes coordinating between federal, state, and tribal government agencies, nonprofits, and academic partners, and even international partners. And finally, reinvestment. As we set our sights on stewardship challenges that face parks, not just now, but also in the future, it becomes imperative that we invest in the people who will continue this work into the future as well. And this means equipping park leadership and staff with skills and knowledge about these problems, as well as creating opportunities for the next generation of resource managers and specialists. So CCRP works to engage directly with parks. Fulfilling these goals can include facilitating meetings, project management, or workshops. But compared to the size of the National Park Service, CCRP is relatively small. And you can see some of the folks who work at CCRP pictured here at right. Training, education, and leadership at every park is not possible and not an effective use, therefore, of program time. Over the last decade, CCRP has worked to improve climate change literacy through reports and asynchronous training material to reach the broadest audience possible. And beginning in 2023, CCRP published a report series that now centers climate change scenarios for 433 NPS sites. Now, as our next step, we aim to help parks better internalize what those climate scenarios mean for the resources, assets, and values park managers protect. And by collaborating with partners like you, we hope to foster baseline understanding of climate change and climate adaptation across NPS so that parks will be best equipped to work proactively to manage for a changing future.